order, and let's begin. Robin, if you'll do this roll call.
Mr. McNulty.
Here.
Ms. Foster.
Here.
Mr. Pierce.
Here.
Mr. Avadanula. Ms. Sundar.
Here.
Okay, so we're here to continue continuation of the zoning code amendment number ZON-24-05 zoning code rewrite. And so, Robin, I'll turn it over to you to marshal us through this.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. So we left off last time in Article 21, which is the General Development Standards. We, kind of wrapped up with parking. There's really only one other section that I was going to talk about in Article 21, which is sidewalks and paths that basically they'll be required outside of the right-of-way with major projects. So I don't know if you all had any questions or any comments either on that last section of sidewalks and paths or anything that came to mind from last week's discussion that you wanted to comment on additionally. If not, we'll move on to signage, but I'll pause there and just...
I only have one.
Yeah.
With respect to sidewalks, in the past, over the years of Orange Township, many years, there have been some developments that we haven't required sidewalks. Are those now required, or we would still allow a developer to come in and have no sidewalks?
So it depends on the development, but in general, this zoning code is going to require sidewalks. Additionally, county subdivision regulations for residential subdivisions do require sidewalks as well. And that's for most major subdivisions. If it was, 3 houses on a common access drive off of Old State, then maybe not. But for major subdivisions, yes.
Excellent. That's good.
The point there will not mandate within right-of-way, but can construct in right-of-way with permission. Is that with the zoning commission, or is that?
So that would actually be the operations department. So okay. Generally speaking, zoning can't, we can't control what happens within the public street right-of-way. That's just not within the scope of a zoning code. But if for whatever reason the path wasn't feasible for utilities or trees or whatever on the private property, that's when the operations department could give written permission and say, okay, yes, your path or sidewalk can go into the public right-of-way. For those rare situations. Generally, they're outside of the right-of-way.
Can such recommendation, if we thought, we understand that's right-of-way, but it would be nice to have that there, would you go and seek that permission? Is that?
Yeah, we would work through that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions on that.
Okay, well then the bulk of our discussion is going to be for signage tonight. I'm going to give a quick intro and then I'm going to let Eric guide a lot of this discussion because Eric is the one in our office who deals with signage the most, so he is the subject matter expert. But I'll start off just, kind of the general overview. Signage is one of the sections in the code that is changing the most. There's a big kind of undercurrent for this, which is that our current signage code regulates signs by content. So we have certain rules for political signs, certain rules for real estate signs, things like that. About 10 years ago, so we're a few years out of date, there was a Supreme Court case that came out of Arizona that says that local governments can't regulate signage based on the content of the sign. So you can't have different rules for different types of signs. You can only have different rules for monument signs. You can have, specific rules for wall signs, temporary signs, things like that. So it's just a different way of classifying how we regulate the signage. And so it's just a big change from how we do it in our current code, and it's just a different approach. So that's the big global picture of what we're changing on signage. And there are certain things that we are changing or proposing to change with that as well, but I'll let Eric walk through those.
Sure. Eric, just one quick moment. Just want to acknowledge our other board member.
Karthik is present.
That he is present,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Sorry
right.
for being late.
Not a problem. Well, thank you, Robin, for that intro into signage. As far as some of the changes, they They will be ones we'll try to highlight at kind of at a faster clip, but please feel free to stop us and ask any specific questions as I go through with some of these kind of 60,000 foot level overview. So for small yard signs, those will continue to be, or those will be a permitted type of a use, but I believe we're only talking about the 6 square foot variety. So very small in general, and that shouldn't represent a significant change. Animated signs, beacon types, signage, pole signs, as well as any search lighting style signs are all going to be prohibited. We can get into further detail on the animated portion in particular, but there is a bit of a segue into your LED and your electronic style signs as well. So happy to clarify about that, but bottom line would be that these are prohibited sign types as described. So EMCs, that's electronic message centers, they would be a permitted type of sign for the specific uses of both gas stations as well as institutional uses. That does include the schools. There would need to be some thought behind the timing for EMCs because, as I would assume you're aware, there's the ability to do pretty much an infinite amount of adjustments to these signs. So I'm thinking about what would make sense for the community with regards to EMCs. Freestanding signs, we're familiar with the requirement that they be a certain distance away from the right-of-way lines based on their size. That will continue to be something that will be regulated in the same fashion. Is there anything else that you want to touch on, Robin, there?
So Eric, I'd probably, why don't you flip over to section 22.06, which is the EMC
Sure.
section, and we can
Pause.
take a deeper dive in that. So currently, EMCs are not permitted in general in the township. There are certain exceptions. The schools do have them on their properties. I believe the Board of Zoning Appeals has granted 1 or 2 variances for them in the past, but they're not common. When you drive up and down 23, you do not typically see the digital signs. So that's what we're talking about.
And I don't think we have any schools on 23 at all.
Not directly on 23, no.
Robin and Eric, I was flipping to EMC, and something that caught my eye in 22.03, prohibited signs. A1 prohibits animated signs. Ooh, sorry, I just hit this. Thoughts on the, and I don't see a definition of animated sign in the definition section. So thoughts on what the difference between an animated sign and AEC? AMC?
EMC.
I was like,
Yeah.
AED? No, EMC.
So I'm not sure. So to be frank, this is a part of the code that we had pulled from another source. So I think
Okay.
I was going through this earlier today, and there are some consistency issues in terms of the definitions.
Okay.
So we do need to clean that up.
Okay, yeah.
Is there a size limit for an EMC sign, or?
The way that the code lists, the draft code lists it, it would be up to 50% of the area of that sign. So that is something that would be an item of discussion if you would like, but that would mean the other half or greater needs to be a standard style of sign, so that, I mean, the display of the EMC could be 50% of that total area of the sign.
So this is a sign like if you're, I think of like Culver's or something like that, you're driving and they have the,
Menus,
yeah, when you're driving by it, it has, maybe I may be making this up, but
Think of the school.
where it's showing like a picture of a hamburger or whatever it is, and then it switches to something else, or sometimes it may be a message. Is that kind of what we're thinking about here for this sign?
not familiar with the exact Culvers, but for various businesses, City of Columbus does have provision to allow EMCs, so there are many examples currently out there.
Yeah.
When I talk about the adjustability of it, it certainly can be a quick change to the image, even to the extent that it has kind of the video type motion
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it. If some jurisdictions allow, I'm not familiar with how other jurisdictions regulate it, other than we heard recently, I think Columbus does put a time limit of 10 seconds on their images on those signs.
Yeah, when I think of the EMC, I think of like Olentangy High School where it'll come in,
Oh, sure.
go Braves and,
Schedule.
and the, good luck on summer break or good luck on finals and things like that.
Yeah, and then I think that's kind of prototypical of what we would, be
Right.
considering with these types of signs.
But theoretically, it could be any digital image, is that what we're saying? Or-
Basically,
Yeah.
and so that is,
Yeah.
that is both, in a way, it's very open because
Yeah.
just the nature of those signs, you can put almost anything on them.
I think we're in the early days of this, like we were with LEDs, 15 years ago. I think of the Sphere in Las Vegas, that's what's capable. I'm not sure how in the world that ever got approved just for all of it, and it did. All right, so anything's capable. I think we're in the early days, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens and write something that's at least gonna be somewhat flexible and.
Yeah, and so, knowing that there is a history in the township of not having these, I think we wanted to introduce it and still have some fairly stringent limitations on where and how they can be used.
Yeah.
Because
I
so
agree.
far, the commercial, nobody's picked up on it for real commercial use yet. Haven't seen it. Is it available to them? Yes, it's available, but we haven't seen it. But I still think we will at some point.
Yeah, and we are, we have one pending BZA application for an EMC currently. So businesses they do ask for it
Yeah, yeah.
some.
It's gonna come up.
So the way the draft code is written currently is that they would be permitted for gas station uses and for institutional uses, so schools, churches, public facilities. So those are the two that are in the code. In thinking about this in a global sense, I don't know that, I don't have a good reason for why gas stations are singled out. So I'm interested in your feedback on that, because I don't know if there's a difference between, a gas station advertising a slushie versus a McDonald's advertising a slushie on, via an electronic messaging center.
Yeah. I could think of if I have a restaurant or something else and I'm putting on 23, I want the electronic story so that it catches people's attention.
Sure.
So I'm gonna ask you to do that. So I was gonna ask, why is it limited to gas stations?
I
There's
agree. I
something
don't think
unique
there should-
about them, but
I don't think
there
there
should
should be
be a
any
limitation.
restrictions necessarily
Yeah.
to gas stations.
Yeah.
I think this needs to be open, and we'll talk about it when they come in. I mean, 'cause we're gonna see it.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think, I presume is it possible to limit it to just commercial area though, or are we talking about?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be permitted in certain
Yeah.
districts, certainly.
Another potential limiting factor, and again, it's new, it's kind of potentially the Wild West, could be, in addition to the restrictions, the permitted locations, the township could identify EMCs as conditional uses in specific districts, so that way, the BZ, it gives a bit more flexibility as time and technology come along. So the BZA would be able to consider a specific application and then put specific restrictions or that type of thing on it. Not saying that you need to have it, again, this might be just a starting point, and then as time goes on, work your way through it, but just something to keep in mind that a conditional use is possible as well.
I like that idea of only allowing it, whatever that image, to be for so much amount of time. I think about I know in Corpus Christi I buy the digital big billboards or whatever they are, and I think they last, based on the drive or whatever, about 20 seconds, and then they flip to something else. But I like that idea, so it's not a stagnant, because if it's gonna be stagnant, get a stagnant sign, yeah.
Static stays
Yeah.
always the same.
Yeah.
In that regard, I mean, we have all seen blooper videos of folks using funny language to catch attention. I know it's a big topic. I want to know from legal, how do we manage for avoiding profanity or anything like that? Because obviously there are multiple ways people can get at it, and how do we blanket avoid profanity? Because we have seen those kind of things happen across the world, so.
Well, and I don't have a good answer for how to